Mr. Darshan Singh and principal and faculty of Welhams School for giving us this chance to discuss a very relevant topic. And I am also humbled by presence of real architects of our Kargil victory. One is here on the stage with us, General Mohinder Puri. He actually won the Kargil War for us. And we are lucky that he is on the panel with us. We have people like General Hall, General Bhardwaj, we have General Lakhvinder, we have people who were at the cutting edge, like Sonam Bongchuk, like our brave Hector pilot, and we have Sanjay Kumar amongst us. So we are humbled by their presence. So what we'll do is, see, Kargil happened. It was, many of you may not know that Kargil War was fought under a caretaker government. A government which had lost its majority, which was waiting to fight or prove itself in an election. See now, see it in the current context. What kind of bitterness takes place? Will they ever allow a caretaker government this kind of freedom? It was a caretaker government. Now this government also displayed great spirit of glasnost. They wanted to show transparency, openness. They acknowledged that we have faulted or we have made grave mistakes. So they instituted Kargil Review Committee. And they followed it up with expert committees in 4 disciplines. And then there was a group of ministers report. And India, which is not cared to put in open Henderson Brooks report, here we were doing it in Parliament. And Kargil Review Committee report has certain portions which are redacted, but balance is open. You can read about it. So the first tranche of reforms took place after these lessons, and they took place in around 2001. Then there was a pause for 10 long years. Then there was a Naresh Chandra task force. That was the phase where lessons learned, we decided to unlearn those lessons and modify them. Even rename the appointment of CDS in certain way. So you learn lessons, you unlearn lessons. And then there was also a Shekatkar committee report. And now we are in a stage where Prime Minister announced CDS in 2019. So we are relearning the lessons. So what we are going to do is, we'll focus on 3 issues. All of you are worried and talk about intelligence failure. It happened in Kargil. It also probably happened in Ladakh. So we'll ask General Harinder, who's been the DGMI, to dilate on this issue. Then we'll request Admiral Soni to tell us about theatres, jointness, integration, which is the main thrust of reforms. In between, I'll try and tell you about border management, what reforms have taken place. And finally, we will have General Puri to put it all in a perspective that as a divisional commander, he won the Kargil for us. As a deputy chief, he tried to push the reforms. And where are we today? How does he find it? So we'll start straight away. We'll request General Harinder to please educate us on the issue of intelligence failures.
Good afternoon, everyone. There is no doubt that Kargil was an intelligence failure. But the issue is that intelligence failures are very difficult to explain. They are so paradoxical and they are so complex and complicated that it is not easy for anyone to explain as to why an intelligence failure happened. Now, if you again get back into history, well, I can cite a history of intelligence failures in India. Okay, for instance, the 1962 war, or what happened in 1965, or what happened in Kargil. After that, we had the Parliament attack, and then after that, we had the Mumbai attacks. Then we had Uri, and then we had Pulwama, and then, of course, Galwan, for which I'm accused for several reasons and on several counts, for which I have a different explanation, which I can give at some other point of time. But the issue is that an intelligence failure is very difficult to explain. Now, the Kargil Review Committee, as it was constituted at a later stage, based on the recommendations of the group of ministers' report, instituted an intelligence task force. That task force came up with about 3 or 4 issues. The first issue that got highlighted there was that there was a need for greater coordination amongst all intelligence agencies in India. That was the first thing. Second, it said that each and every intelligence agency, its charter must be clearly and fully defined. Third, it said that the collection of intelligence or the collection of information is different from the collation and dissemination of information. It means gathering of information is different from analyzing, and then it also organized a committee which looked at the requirement of technology, and based on that, there were several innovations that happened in the Indian context. One of them was the creation of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is referred to as the DIA, and then a very famous organization, some of you would have known the name, that's called the NTRO, the National Technical Research Organization. So what I mean to say is that there were some serious flaws that were found during the Kargil operations, and based on that, these recommendations came up. Now, what is important here is, well, the recommendations are not important for us because even after these recommendations had come out and all this got implemented, as I cited earlier, there have been several other intelligence failures in India in terms of Mumbai Parliament attack and all that put together. But at your level, for these young boys and girls, there are 3 things that you must understand about what is intelligence. You may then be able to understand what is an intelligence failure. Now, first of all, information is not intelligence. Intelligence is beyond information. If I say that there are 4 people hiding behind this wall, that is information. But if I say that there are 4 people hiding behind that wall, but one of them has a weapon, that is intelligence. So therefore, each one of you must understand the difference between information and intelligence. The issue is, sometimes we tend to take lack of information as an intelligence failure. I think that part has to be understood by everyone. But 3 things that I want to tell you is that in the world today, you need tools for gathering intelligence. What are those tools? These are satellites, these are aircrafts, these are unmanned vehicles, these are radars, these are, foot patrols and everything put together. These are means of gathering information. If a country has more tools for gathering information, you are in a better position to, work on this. The second important thing is that a country must have the means to analyze information. I can have 100 buckets full of information, but the point is that we will not be able to use that information if it is not analyzed. And what you need for analysis is automation, is ITization, is what we all talk about, artificial intelligence and everything else. The third thing, which is most important, is that I might have the information and I might also be able to put the intelligence in place. But what is more important is that I should be able to disseminate that. I should be able to send it down to people who need it. If an intelligence which does not read the right person on my left side and it goes to someone on the right side, okay, that intelligence is of no use. So 3 things are very important. And some of you are going to grow up in these fields. Well, some of you would work on satellite technology or aircraft technologies, or for that matter, AI, or for that matter, automation, or secure means of communications like quantum computing and everything else. So what we all need to understand is that it is at these 3 levels that we must first understand what is intelligence, and then start talking about intelligence failures. I think that should be enough for the point that I want to make. Thank you, sir.
General Harinder has given us an excellent primer into what is information, what is intelligence, and what is the time sensitivity of converting it into an operational kind of situation. And he's also told us that Defense Intelligence Agency, which is called DIA, and NTRO came up. And some more are coming. There are shortfalls, but we have made tremendous progress. Now let us look at the second issue, which is about border management. So that was the second issue referred to Kargil Review Committee. So please look at this screen and you will see, I'll take you on a journey of our borders with Pakistan. This is defined by Red Cliff Line and it goes to Siachen Glacier. You see it something in red and then it converts to black, line of control, and then is the Siachen Glacier. And next to that is Aksai Chin. Next please. The first thing is Run of Kutch. We have water wars over there. Sir Creek. There are water wars taking place there. There is something called as Harami Nala, a Nala whose origin is disputed between India and Pakistan. It has excellent fish. So we are fighting over that, and there has been a tribunal, and that is called Sir Creek Award. Go to next, please. That is our PM Modi in desert, taking a camel patrol along the international border, which is well-defined, fenced. There is patrolling and manned by border security force. Next. It is like this. You can do it with vehicles. There are concertina coils. Next. But the border is not at the zero line. Or rather, the fencing is not at the zero line. We have been forced to put the fence on our side. And there is fertile territory across the fence, which is ours. So every day, farmers go and do cultivation. So it is across the fence, and there are stretches like this. People are wading through water, slush. This is their challenge. Next, please. So it's lighted at night. Next. And if you are flying over India-Pakistan border, you can see it from the air. This is one of the things that can be seen from a spacecraft also. Next. And this is where LOC starts. Next. LOC is also fenced, but in an ad hoc manner. Next, please. Okay, finished. So, students, I'd like you to know that while we have international border, which is fenced, demarcated, but somewhere beyond Kathua, we have something called as working boundary. While we feel it is settled, it was agreed in the Shimla agreement, but Pakistan disputes it. And Pakistan calls it working boundary. We call it international boundary. And we man it with BSF. That is from Kathua to Akhnur. If you go beyond Akhnur, that is something called as line of control. That line of control is again agreed in Shimla agreement. But it is fenced not in a proper manner. It is called anti-intrusion observation system, obstacle system. So that is where it is. And beyond that, Siachen is actual ground position line. Now, what was decided in Kargil Review Committee? It was decided that it will be one border, one force. So BSF will look after Indo-Pak border and Bangladesh border. SSB, which is Sahastra Seema Bal, will look after open borders, which are Nepal and Bhutan. Assam Rifle will look after Myanmar border. And Indo-Tibetan Border Police will look after the China border. This was decided. Is it happening on ground? And it was also decided that Central Reserve Police Force will look after the internal security. Is it happening? In Manipur today, we have CRPF, BSF, ITBP, Assam Rifle, SSB, all are there. Why they are there? The second issue is, we had decided in Kargil Review Committee that only CRPF will look after the internal security. But the actual situation is this. The second issue is, if it is one border, one force, then you should also have one commander. So when we have theaters, it is hoped, currently, Army does not enjoy operational, it's not really enjoyment. Army does not have the responsibility of operational control over ITBP. ITBP, which is on China border, is not really under Army's operational control. That is a big lacuna. That still needs to be addressed. I think I'll stop here. I have taken my share of time, and if there's anything, we'll address it during question answer session. So I'll now request Admiral Soni to please guide us on something which is the meat of this reforms: the theater commands, CDS, jointness, and integration. Sir.
Thank you, KJ. First of all, Mr. Darshan Singh, Sangeeta Kain, the principal, the staff, and the students of Boys Welhams. We've had a fantastic time in the last 2 days, and many thanks for your hospitality. To use your words, it was truly awesome experience, my first. Last week, about 10 days back, I was listening to a lecture by a very eminent historian. His name was Dr. Madhavan Palat. Very respected, very knowledgeable, very erudite. He was speaking on a different subject, but there was a sentence that he spoke, and it was stinging. He said that before independence, India was under military rule. The topic was something else. He made that statement. Actually, I wanted to get up and tell him that, and he almost insinuated as if we were hand in glove with the colonizers. I wanted to tell him that ours is a professional army. The Royal Indian Navy mutiny contributed to the freedom struggle in a manner which is not as well publicized. There were, by some counts, about 30,000 army Jawans and officers who mutinied and joined the Azad Hind Fauj, and the exploits of which are now being recognized and were probably shelved under the carpet. But the impression that I got was that at the time of independence, there was certainly a suspicion on the Indian Army. And there was one soldier, Lord Ismay, and there was Admiral Mountbatten, our last viceroy. They were the ones who drew up the Higher Defense Organization. And that Higher Defense Organization had three very important characteristics. One was crippling civilian dominance of the bureaucrats, politicians. It was meant to be politicians, but it got transferred to bureaucrats. The second was a strong focus on single service operations. Each service started to operate in silos. And the third was, which was born out of our independence struggle, that India is somewhat pacifist, and does not see a great role for the army in future. This is because of, leaders like Mahatma Gandhi. But this convoluted defense setup compromised military effectiveness. But Indians are famous for jugaad. We managed, whether it was 1948 or it was 65 or it was 71, we never thought, I would say the politicians and the bureaucrats never thought of any defense reforms, even though 62 was not a good experience. But then Kargil happened. And then, like General KJ has said, that we set about, these group of ministers report, Kargil committee report, and there were some actions which were taken. IDS headquarters was set up, the tri-service command was set up, the recommendation that there should be a CDS was kind of put aside because those suspicions have still not died. Because the higher defense organization was somehow made coup-proof. They saw what was happening in Pakistan, what was happening in Bangladesh, what is happening in Myanmar, and the politicians and the bureaucrats, they wanted a coup-proof organization. But then Naresh Chandra committee report, then recently Shetkakar, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but it's a complicated name, Shekatkar committee report in 2016. But over a period of time, there have been numerous efforts which have been made to improve integration. So we had raising of the headquarters IDS, raising of the tri-service Andaman and Nicobar command. Earlier, the defense services could not spend any money. They were attached offices. They had to go for every approval to the Ministry of Defense. That stopped. That was one of the lessons learned, one of the recommendations of the task forces, and we were delegated powers. We started calling ourselves Integrated Defense Headquarters. As brought out, NTRO was set up, though it is, not really in the ambit of the armed forces. But post 2014, the defense reforms have got accelerated. They've become sharper. 2019, the CDS was appointed, the Department of Military Affairs got created, the Indian Defense Cyber Agency was created in 2019. I think it is very important to note that during this period, also there has been an increase in the number of officers who are appointed to the PMO and the National Security Council, which means that we have a greater say now in the management of defense and, in fact, national affairs. There is an emphasis on jointness. 3 logistic nodes have been established, and logistics is more joint now than earlier. There is an ambitious plan for theaterization. In what form it will come? Certainly everyone is on board now to say that there should be theaterization. That there is no point having separate army commands, separate air force commands, separate naval commands. And earlier, even the services themselves are not very sure whether theaterization should happen or not. Because when you become joint, everyone loses a bit of their independence, a bit of their control. And who doesn't enjoy power? But if you are together, then you have to make room for the others. But now I think over a period of time, especially the last 4 years, there have been a lot of discussions, and finally the services have come around. In what form this theaterization is going to come about is still not known. The rumors are that we are going to have 3 commands, 1 command facing the western frontier, 1 for against China, and 1 maritime command. and it would be equally distributed with regard to the heads of those commands, whether they are going to be 4-star, whether they're going to be a joint CDS. Things are a little, nebulous right now. But in addition, there have been reforms of DRDO. There has been a corporatization of the ordnance factories. There is a lot of focus on exports now. There is a lot of focus on military diplomacy. Today, we are engaging with other services of other countries a lot, especially the Navy, in terms of joint exercises, partnerships, staff talks, training, and just doing things together, because we have realized that by ourselves, it would not be possible, or it is not enough, to hold sway over especially the Indian Ocean. But I want to, and all these defense reforms started with General Mohinder Puri, the Kargil War. But I would like to just underscore a few lessons, since that is the topic of today. One is that one must be prepared for war always. Here was Vajpayee shaking hands, doing japis with Nawaz Sharif, and what was Musharraf up to? It could happen again. As someone said, history rhymes. So therefore, never let your guard down and be always prepared for war. The second issue is that between nuclear powers, nuclear armed powers, wars are different. We have Pakistan, which is nuclear powered, which has got nuclear weapons. India has got nuclear weapons. China has got nuclear weapons. Do you think we'll actually go out for an all-out war? Unlikely. Very unlikely. Now is the time of grey zone warfare. There will be more Kargils, there can be more Galwans, there can be more Doklams, there can be more other surreptitious activity. All-out war is going to be difficult. Importance of surveillance and intelligence has been brought out. But insofar as the Navy is concerned, while we have been dominant at sea, and we were so dominant during especially the Kargil War, Pakistan hid their warships in their harbors and went close to the coast, but it is not going to be so in future. And we have not only Pakistan, but we have the Chinese Navy to be contend with, who are heavily dependent on trade passing through the Indian Ocean. They already have a presence here. They've got a base in Djibouti. They've got going to have a base in Gwadar. They have got basing facilities in Hambantota. They have got basing facilities on the east coast of Africa. They have got huge trade with Africa. Their trade with the Persian Gulf to get fossil fuels. So you can expect them to have very, very keen interest in what is happening in the Indian Ocean region, and in times to come you will have not only the Chinese Navy to contend with, but a collusion between the Chinese and the Pakistanis, and a strong presence of the Chinese Navy is only going to embolden Pakistan to do more Kargils, whether it is at sea or it is in the mountains. And the Indian Ocean is gaining a lot of importance. You must read about it. Indian Ocean was a sleepy ocean during the first two world wars, but not any longer. Now it is a battleground, and all the major regional powers are wanting to assert themselves in the region, in the ocean that bears our name. We must not forget that. Anyway, I have taken enough time, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Admiral Soni, sir. Let me share one thing with you. The story of jointness or integration in Indian armed forces, Indian Navy emerges as the hero. They are the one who have been consistently pushing this idea. Silent service, they have been pushing this idea. Air forces had reservations. Armies agreed or has been pushing occasionally. So what is going to come out, I don't know. But I learnt my lesson very early. I married a naval officer's daughter, and I did the naval staff course. So I am a naval Jawai, he says. Okay, so this is for lighter side because you must be getting bored because there is one very witty person here, Admiral Billu Chauhan. He wrote in my profile in Staff College, Armored Corps who married the Naval Corps. I am from Armored Corps. I married the Naval Corps. So, you remember that, sir? I don't forget easily. So, we will go on to General Mohinder Puri, who is the architect of this Kargil victory. I'll tell you, I have very dispassionately tried to analyze, and I have no hesitation in saying that senior officers didn't do so well. But there is an exception, and that is General Mohinder Puri. So, we'll ask him, sir, please do tell us, where are we in these reforms and lessons, and what do you want to tell the next generation, sir?
Thank you, KJ. And thank you, Mr. Darshan and Madam Ken, Principal, for your warm hospitality and lovely 2 days spent over here. Now, getting to the lessons and learnings in Kargil War, I think the best thing which the government did was to initiate the Kargil Report Committee. The Kargil Committee was formed by a very senior strategist, should I say, a defense analyst strategist, Mr. Subramaniam, father of the present External Affairs Minister. Now, and what the government told the committee, the terms of reference given was to be futuristic and not to do any witch hunting. So I think with that background, they came up with an excellent report which has been discussed, the very broad issues of intelligence, jointness and border management. Now, intelligence, we have come a long way, I think, from the days when, 25 years back when the Kargil operation took place. At that time, we were totally blank. We just didn't know where the enemy was. We were blinded absolutely without any idea of the type of deployment or the type of opposition which we were going to knock into. Today, the situation is much, much better. And I think what General Harinder has covered, as far as the intelligence is concerned, the developments which have taken place. But like he also said that there is no foolproof intelligence. Despite all these measures, there will always be incidents, and it's not. I mean, you've seen what happened in Israel on the 7th of October last year. An intelligence, the Mossad just failed in even, thinking about the type of offensive which the Hamas is going to launch on the 7th of October. The invincibility of the IDF and their intelligence agencies was crushed. So we should be prepared if any untoward incident does take place. But what we require is basically for the ground forces, you require a battle management system which is yet to be in place. I was the first Assistant Director General to start the C3I for the Army. It was at the evolving stage, but 25 years hence, I don't even see it really coming on ground. So you need technology, because today boots on the ground are important, but technology gives you the right type of intelligence to place those boots at the right places. So I think that point was very well covered by Harinder. And getting on to the border management, again, General KJ covered a very important aspect, that there are different types of borders and the responsibility is not with the army. But remember, in the rules of business, the services are responsible for the external security of the country. So any violation of the international border, the responsibility falls, willy-nilly on the services. So there is a need for the paramilitary organizations to come under command. I'm not asking for it's not a turf battle, but unfortunately it has become a turf battle. But if you see realistically and as far as the ground situation is concerned, all paramilitary organizations must come under the operational control of the army wherever they are deployed. Otherwise, we'll keep having all these incidents like what happened in Galwan. The ITBP is patrolling those areas. They're, I don't want to say what happened, but nevertheless, these are the gaps which need to be looked into by the Defense Reforms Committee or the political leadership and the top services leadership. The fence which has been made in the border areas as far as the ground forces are concerned has been a good initiative which has imposed a number of restrictions on the infiltration by the terrorists who are coming into this side. But you have an open border. They come from Nepal, they come from anywhere else, and they land up in India and create all these problems for you. So your intelligence, border management, all this have to be working in harmony and not in silos, which the biggest problem of the intelligence is that we all want to, the fastest finger first goes to your boss. Whereas the fastest finger first should go to the person who's going to act on that intelligence. So I think these are some aspects which need consideration. Now, as far as jointness is concerned, yes, we are taking small steps, baby steps. We've started, I think, inter-service postings of officers. Some customs are being, made common to all the three services and so on and so forth. But remember, the American experience, they took 25 years by the time the theaterization was accepted and came on ground. So it's an evolving process, and I'm sure with the type of military leadership, that is, when I say military leadership, I mean the three services, they will be able to come up with a very, very viable option, a very, very viable organization as far as the theaterization is concerned. And jointness is the way forward. And like in one of the sessions I was saying, it is the Navy which is going to lead the future of warfare. And I think we must all accept that and be ready for it. The Army has got its own role, the Air Force has got its own role. But when you see the larger spectrum of warfare, the Navy definitely will be ahead of the other two services. I mean, that might not go well with my Army friends, but nevertheless. I think a point was made about the surprise and deception part by the what happened by the Lahore visit of the Prime Minister and how the Pak Army, at the same time had intruded into our area. Now, the political leadership and the intelligence agencies must be very careful of this. We have seen what has happened with China in the past 5 years, and what are the repercussions of that. So these surprise and deception is something which we should never fall prey to, because it just leads to unnecessary casualties, unnecessary loss of lives, and in the overall context, it brings the economy back a couple of years. Future wars, like Satish said, are not going to be fought really, hand-to-hand battles and all. They will be fought in our context in some disputed areas. But in a larger sense, it will be hybrid warfare and cyber warfare and high-tech warfare, sub-conventional warfare. You see the non-state actors. You see what is happening in the Israel war, in the war in the Middle East. These are the non-state actors which are taking on a country. The Houthis, the Hamas, and the Hezbollahs. So one has to see that such sort of incidents don't fall into our lap. Thank you very much, KJ.
Thank you, Jalal Puri, sir. You have put the entire thing in a kind of a perspective. So now let's get to question answers. We'll follow the same format. We'll open the house for questions. But I have one request to make. There are some schools which may not have asked questions. So let us try and bring them on board. Any school which has not asked questions till now, please get up. You have the first shot at asking questions.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question was that what lessons did the Kargil War teach us about defending such rugged and high altitude regions, and how was the military evolved in terms of equipment, strategy and training to handle similar tactical challenges in the future also?
Thank you. We got your question. Let's have one more question, please. And once again, let's try and bring in a school which is not asked a question till now. Please, let everybody participate in this seminar.
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Manvi and I am from PYDS Learning Academy. So my question is, what were the psychological impact of the Kargil War on all the soldiers present here and the civilians, and how can these insight from current military mental health strategies?
Thank you. And one more question, please. Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my question to you is that you all are trained mentally for war, but what are your emotions like during unexpected war like Kargil? How do training and the reality of combat interact, and what specific feelings arise in those intense moments? Thank you.
So one question for maritime. Anybody who wants to ask for maritime? Go ahead, please. Whoever has got a question related to maritime domain, ask, please. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Babita. I am from Himjyoti School, and I want to ask that, sir, like you described about what Indian government and Indian Army have learned from Kargil War. So I would like to ask that one. May you please tell the one best lesson you all learned from the Kargil War?
Okay, thank you. We got it is not maritime, but okay, chalega. So what we'll do is, I would request Admiral Soni to answer the last question. What is one big lesson that you've learned from Kargil War? Because he beautifully listed those. That be prepared for a surprise always. You know, he listed all those lessons. So I'll request him to tackle this, please.
So I've got one last question. Can I ask you? It's you. I'm here. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
You've already started, so go ahead.
All right. So if you were to draw inspiration from Pakistan Army, I remember I had the same discussion with General Y.K. Joshi as well, but I would like to know your views on it as well. So what is that one inspiration? I know it might sound tricky, but something we should learn from them, if there is any such thing.
Thank you. Thank you. We got
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes.
So the question is not all that maritime, but one can always give a twist, maritime twist. So you know what I would like to tell you is that even we people in the services, we also get surprised as to how warfare is evolving so fast, how the domains are changing, how the enemy is always surprising you, like we got surprised in Kargil. And that is the lesson. Now you see what is happening in, say, a Ukraine war. There is a new domain which has come, and that is seabed warfare. Suddenly, deep down, some oil pipelines have got, somebody exploded them. And now the nations are scrambling to organize themselves to fight this new menace of undersea warfare. This was not so just some time back. You all are, very savvy with internet. All these internet is only probably 5% on satellites. 95% is on seabed cables which run underground and land at at various ports. Now, if someone snipes those cables, you will be without internet. If you being without internet is not as much of a problem, but your financial markets will have a problem. And the Chinese, they snapped the internet cables of some Taiwanese islands which are very close to Chinese. All the young people left that island for the main island because they couldn't live without internet. So what I'm trying to say is that whether it is the cognitive domain or it is the underwater domain, or just new things are coming up, and you must be alive to that. Kargil taught us how we were surprised, but we will continue to be surprised by different aspects of warfare. We never knew the importance of these drones, drone warfare. Ukraine doesn't have a navy, but has driven the Russian navy, a much stronger navy, into the harbors, just like we drove the Pakistan navy into their harbors without a navy of their own, just with unmanned air vehicles and unmanned surface vehicles. This was a big surprise, and today all of us are scrambling to understand how to firstly become experts in drone warfare and how to counter drone warfare. So it is very important to have an agile mind, to be open to various suggestions, and I think that is the lesson which emanates from Kargil.
Now we'll request, I hope your question is answered. Have an agile mind, be alive to challenges, and be nimble in your thinking and in your learning. New challenges will come up. You have to devise solutions for that.